in my domain. Got the whole crowd screaming out our name. It's a blowout, it's a hurricane, it's over. Before you know it, we're gonna stand on top with our hands in the sky. Gonna raise our cup to the stadium lights for the glory, for the glory. We celebrate with the city tonight. Hear the hometown cheer, it's the ultimate high. For the glory, we do it for the glory.
Good afternoon, Summoners, and welcome to the 2018 LVL Spring Term Week number 3. My name is G10, coming at you, and with me is Arctic, and we will be your shotcasters entering this game number 5.
Yeah, and man, what a game that we had earlier. UST versus MCL, but in all fairness, also expecting it to be a tad bit more one-sided, but MCL, they were able to roll with the punches for a bit.
Yeah, definitely. MCL, they did, well, it was a very interesting game because MCL picked Tryndamere and UST picked Yasuo. So that was kind of a very solo queue-esque kind of comps that both teams had. And at the end of the game, while MCL was split pushing down the bot lane, the Tryndamere, his entire team was losing the base, and UST just won that very handily.
Yeah, Lucis was trying to make some work of that bot lane, but in the end, UST managing to pull it all together to that victories, but very well played nonetheless. Interesting games that we're having today so far, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, very, very interesting. But now we are going to be seeing MCL versus IAC.
Nako. MCL and I Academy.
Yeah.
Well, for MCL, having lost that previous game, and they did show potential promise. At least I did see the results of what time they did have between their break from the last time we saw them. So hopefully this time around, they kind of warmed up against UST, maybe a better performance against iAcademy. Meanwhile, still naghanap pa rin sila ng first win nila for the LVL. So considering that they are going up against MCL, could be the opportunity.
Yeah, and iAcademy, they're still trying to find their footing in this LVL. They're still trying to kind of find their groove.
Right.
They still haven't found it. 0-3, I believe, coming into this week. While MCL, they do have 1 win to 3 losses right now. But, these teams are still, they're ready to go all in. They're ready to really, I have a hard time finding the actual English word. So bakbakan na. They're ready to they're ready to really go hard on each other.
And in all fairness, there's still quite a bit of room for these two teams to take it to the next level. Since we do have 10 teams ngayon, hindi siya yung kagaya ng odds ng last time na your 7 teams with only 3 make it. This time it's 10 teams that 6 make it. I think they're a tad bit better odds if my math is right. Never was really good at mathematics for that matter, so yeah, at least the way I see it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's pretty much correct. Man, MCL and IAC right now, they are kind of at the bottom of the standings.
Right.
And if MCL wins this game, they can secure that spot in the top 60% maybe. But moving on to our teams right now, for IAC, we have Suede in the top lane, Hio in the jungle, Import in the mid lane, Oro in the AD carry position, and Cynic Gang as the support with the coach Les Specs Ronquillo.
Yeah, man, that was iAcademy for you, entering their 3rd week right now, waiting for that potential victory. Meanwhile, coming in from Malayan College's Laguna, in the top lane we have Suhi, in the jungle Suzuya, in the mid lane we have Stellar, on ADC we have Bucks, and of course support drops with their coach, my boy Eric Avenir Esguerra.
Yeah, and MCL, their performances so far, they've kind of lost 3 games already, but they've shown that they're willing to fight and then really take it to the opponent in each and every game that they played. And it's that kind of fighting spirit, that could win them games, especially since this LVL is now heating up. But we are moving on to the drafting phase.
I'm wondering, are we going to be seeing more interesting picks from MCL this time around? But looks like one of those interesting picks ish in the form of the Olaf is going to be banned away by iAcademy.
Oh yeah, Olaf was played by MCL in the last game, and I think that was a driving force in the way that MCL was able to get that kind of lead early on.
Right.
And now that that's been banned, Irelia also being banned out here. This, I don't find this strange because we've seen Irelia twice today in the last two games. In the last game and I think the game before that we saw.
Been seeing quite a number of inspired Irelia players in the LVO so far. Whether or not it's because of the rework or her recent plays in MSI, not really sure, but all fairness, not a bad demonstration that we've been seeing so far, especially from UST, by the way.
Yes, UST really using that Irelia, even killing the Tryndamere in a 1v1 situation. But Kaisa and Karma gonna be banned out here for IAC's bot lane, I think.
Huh, interesting. So we're seeing a bit more diversity as far as what bans are being thrown out. Let's go ahead and check out what iAcademy will be going for. I've been seeing a lot more of these Morgana bans here in the LVL than any other league I've been casting in the Philippines so far. So, interesting. Oh, okay.
The Maokai. First pick here for iAcademy. That's a pretty solid top lane, I think.
Yeah, we saw a bit of Maokai earlier during Bulacan State University's game against FIT. Yes. There you go. And in all fairness, definitely worked out to much success, especially with all the aggression that their jungler pulled off. I'm wondering if we might be seeing the same feat from Hio anytime soon. But meanwhile, from MCL, looks like we're going to be seeing some Rakan here. It's going to be dual bot goals for MCL.
Yeah, Saya is open, and with Rakan already picked up for MCL here, Saya kind of just seems like the pick that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because if they don't pick it, then maybe IAC will get that Saya.
And Rakan has been pretty potent lately. But okay, so we're seeing the hover over Kled for Suki.
Okay, now I love Kled. I just love I just love this champion. Everything he says, everything he does, he just goes in. The man has no chill. And that is such a good champion, especially in the top lane meta right now.
Yeah, not to mention violent tendencies for Kled along with the Q, which kind of bases off damage off health. Definitely going to be beneficial going up against this Maokai towards the top side. What I do kind of worried about, though, is that skills thrown out coming from Suhi, of course, gonna make that heal all the more accessible to the Maokai in extended trades.
Yeah.
But looks like in the midst of that, Shenjia once again. We're seeing quite a number of champions that we don't normally see during the past weeks.
Yeah.
See a lot more play.
I do think it's because of the patch 8.10 changes, because we are playing on patch 8.10, and the jungle has been changed. The Scuttle Crabs are now really, really valuable, and junglers that can take the Scuttle Crabs really easily are now priorities, like Xin Shao, Graves, and Suzuya will actually be picking Kindred here, which is very, very interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, Kindred. I feel like Kindred definitely a bit more viable as of this recent patch, I'd say, but I'm wondering how Suzuya is going to utilize that. But first 3 rotation of picks here for both sides thrown out. We're yet to see a marksman from either side.
It's kind of weird, especially since MCL first picked this Rakan, that they wouldn't pick the Saya alongside it. Although Saya is still not being banned out here by either side, Ezreal and Syndra so far in the second phase of bans.
Yeah, interesting. Syndra as well as the Ezreal going to be taken away here from Oro. So a little bit more of a mix of respect and proficiency as far as what bans we're seeing here within this second rotation. Still waiting for these last 2 bans. Okay, the Alistar. So going to be denying a little bit of power from Sinigang. Definitely one of the champions that he's much more proficient at playing. So we're not going to be getting that same set potential from iAcademy with that particular support ban.
Yeah, they don't want that beef Sinigang, man. Look at all the bans of Malayanka of MCL. They're heavily focusing onto the bot lane. Finally, the Zaya ban comes out for IAC. But look at this respect that MCL is giving to IAC's bot lane.
Right.
They're just banning everything out.
And I'm wondering with that, like, just how far can their pool go? And also, not just that, for MCL, like, at the back of my mind, I'm wondering, did they even have the intention of choosing Saya within the second rotation of picks in the first place? Because naturally, if you'd see a Rakan, you'd think that, okay, maybe a Saya could be a potential pick to go with that. Just by default, you're thinking that how that synergy goes. But then again, if you're going to pick a Rakan within the first rotation and not necessarily prioritize Saya to go with him, it makes you wonder as an opponent, do you risk banning out Saya within that second rotation if it was within their intent in the first place, or can it play as a mind game in a way wherein you'd think that MCL trying to bait out the Saya ban, but when in fact MCL would probably have a different ADC altogether in mind within their second rotation.
I like that. That's a really, really smart way to play Champ Select. And the Sivir will go through here for Malayan College's Warlocks. While the bot lane for IAC has been picked, it's a Kog'Maw and Nami. We actually saw this in the last game. MCL was the bot lane that picked up the Kog'Maw and Nami, and it didn't really work out for them because of all the hard engage that UST had in the last game.
Yeah, so
Wait,
I'm not sure that's going to be a lock-in, or is it?
hang on. Could this be the Rakan mid?
Wait, what?
Rakan mid, dude.
That's
It's
a thing?
It's a thing. It is a thing.
Oh my goodness.
Rakan mid, and I can see our commissioner rejoicing in the background. Brian Tan, Crazy Apple has been playing a lot of Rakan mid, and this is actually something that is viable. It is pretty strong.
Okay.
You can set up really easy ganks.
Like earlier during the day, I was talking about how I'd love seeing creative, unorthodox picks. Nothing prepared me, guys. So, Rakan mid that MCL is going to be dishing out for this game.
I was thinking that maybe, we'd seen it all with the Tryndamere and the Yasuo from last game, but no, the Rakan mid finally coming out. I really want to see how MCL is going to pull this off.
Surprise! Happy birthday, MCL. Woo. I gotta give kudos to the innovation though, and I feel like this is definitely one of those games where they can be a little bit more experimental, but hopefully it's something that actually leads to something fruitful as opposed to something that just kind of goes sink and plop.
Yeah, that brilliant mind game from MCL. Everyone thinks when you pick Rakan, it's a support, right?
Right.
But that mid lane Rakan, nobody's prepared for that.
You know what? You know how I was talking about earlier how you'd naturally think that picking a Saya would go with that Rakan?
Yeah.
That was just next level mind game right
Next
there.
level.
I'm not even sure like Saya was even part of the equation with MCL's draft right here. I think that was just the general intention from the get-go.
I think they were just baiting out a ban from IAC there.
Whew.
Man, that's some legit mind gaming coming in from the MCL Warlocks, man.
In all fairness, I really like the innovation. Okay, let's try to put this into deeper context. So, with the Braum support though, what I do like about this is that there's a lot of elements that you could utilize to instantly proc that passive.
Yeah.
I mean, violent tendencies from the Kled. You have that, Kindred of course, you have that extra speed as well.
Exactly.
And then you have the Sivir, naturally a marksman as is. So there's a lot of ways you could really utilize that passive. Set that up with a good set from Stellar as well. There's just a lot of creative things you can do with this composition.
You know what? I like the amount of speed ups that
Yeah.
MCL's comp has. They got the Kled ultimate, they got the Sivir ultimate. If Stellar is going to build Shirelius, they got that. And there's just so many ways for them to get onto this backline of IAC, this squishy Kog'Maw and the Nami. And
Right.
they can just go in, go hard, and then before IAC really has a chance to react to that, they can pull back.
Exactly. So I think at the end of the day, what we're really looking at here from MCL, this is just very classic of, I'd like to say that execution is key for their composition, but just as far as execution goes, I'm not really sure as how far what plays you could actually do with this type of composition. I could imagine a number of scenarios, but then again, it's really up to MCL to show just how far of a reach their imagination goes with what they've drafted here. But we've talked quite a bit about MCL. Let's talk about what iAcademy has right here.
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's a lot of elements that they could work with to protect this Kog'Maw as well. I mean, just Maokai in itself has good control over terrain in team fights due to his two roots, the single target, and of course, the multitude of target that creeps up to MCL. So that in itself could be a good hold over MCL whenever they do try to speed up.
Yeah, I also like the Swain pickup here from Import because that just sets up ganks and team fights in such a way that if IAC gets any sort of CC on it, Import can click on that person and just bring them back, and that gives the IAC Game Changers just a really good way to get onto any target of them on MCL.
Yeah, meanwhile, MCL, like you mentioned, there's a lot that they could do with here. They could just go full straight up, rotate into getting pickoffs of isolated members of the Game Changers, or at the same time in the bigger team fights wherein they can't really force anyone to separate. There's a lot of detours that they can make to instantly get to that backline if they play their cards right, of course. I mean, I've seen it a number of times during the LCL, even in the PGS, wherein they utilize these speed comps that would otherwise allow them to just bypass everyone in the front, reach the squishier targets in the back before going full-on commit into these team fights. So I'd like to see if MCL can pull that off.
Yeah, but that's a lot of theoretical team fighting in the late game that we're talking about. I want to see this early game because Hio in the jungle, Xin Xiao versus Suzuya's Kindred. Now, the jungle changes favor early game junglers really a lot right now. So Xin Xiao is going to have a big advantage versus this Kindred who's not going to be really strong in the early game, especially if Hio has that good control of Scuttle Crabs, doesn't let Suzuya get his marks on the jungle. And, that's going to hamper MCL's gank potential a lot here, especially in the early in the game.
I can definitely agree with you on that. But at the same time, for MCL, I think one thing that they really want to look out for here is yung magandang transition mamaya sa later parts ng game. Because pre-level 6, there's not really much you can do. But
right.
Once they do hit all those ultimates, all that speed, all that potential, all that set potential, then that's where they could really start to get things going. But of course, really depends on how they manage to last out these first few minutes.
Yeah, especially since we are now loading onto the Rift and IAC are just going single file into the mid lane. It kind of looks like, that old cell phone game Snake.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're just going to be warding out the jungle of MCL. MCL, very defensive.
Did get spotted out though, unfortunately, by a lingering Suzuya in the mid lane. So any attempt to have potentially gone for something cheeky would pretty much be futile for I Academy. Pero back to the ball game, back to regular flow for both sides here. No, we won't be seeing any hanky-panky within these first few minutes.
Yeah, no interesting level ones. It's just going to be pretty standard bot lane leashing for the jungler.
Yep.
Top lane guarding the other side of the buff. It does seem like their paths are going to go to the top, and I think that's where we're going to see our first bit of action if the junglers do decide to gank there.
Wait a minute, what skin is this? Oh, it's the Chroma. Oh,
Ooh.
pizza. Oh man, that's making me hungry, but
Pizza
I can't eat pizza.
delivery.
And anyway, it's like we're gonna see a start off right here. Interesting to note though, both junglers are starting off towards the bottom side, so we might see an eventual transition into a gank towards mid or top in the later parts.
Yeah, exactly. And Hio here, when we finishing up his red buff very soon, and I think he's gonna go directly for that scuttle that's spawning in a little bit, while Suzuya is going to go to his red and then scuttle. You see the importance that these junglers are just putting onto that scuttle crab.
Right. Oh man, this is tricky we're seeing here. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how this Rakan is going to fare in the earlier parts. Because as far as going for trade-offs go, I don't think there's not much he can really do just by intention of his kit. But Hio.
Yeah, as you said, the first gank coming in from Hero. The root actually getting onto Stellar. Stellar has to flash out of there, but Hio flashes in after him. Suzuya's flash follows next, and Suzuya gets the first blood. Will Import follow? He is minion block, and it looks like he's gonna go down. Double kill for Suzuya. That will be the Kindred going in and snowballing that. He even gets the mark on this Scuttle Crab, I believe.
Medyo nag-asim si Hio dun. Going to try to get in salvage that kill, but Stellar in the end making an escape. Great response as well from Suzuya though, by the way. Eventually ending that in a 0-2. So that's definitely a great start as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this Kindred.
Exactly. That's one of the best starts you can ask for, because as Kindred, you really want to get snowballing early, and that's exactly what Suzuya is doing right now.
Meanwhile, let's check out action happening here in the bot side. So this is a bit more of a trickier circumstance that we're looking at, really. I mean, you can't really tell who's actually support here, because you kind of have a double support. I'm wondering what itemization Stellar's eventually going to build up onto here, though.
Yeah, I do believe that Shurelia's is going to be really, really good here. Especially with the comp that MCL has. A Shurelia's will just enable MCL to go just really, really fast and engage onto IAC while they're not prepared.
Bringing that Tokyo Drift to full circle, aren't we?
Exactly.
Oh, man. But still, nonetheless, so far looking pretty good for the jungler of MCL. I'm wondering if this could eventually lead to even more pickups, but as far as MCL within these earlier phases, like the question as to whether or not they can last out, I'd say they definitely have that leg up, would have a better transition until such time they do hit their ultimates, would grant better team fight, better pickoffs onto isolated members of iAcademy, as I've been saying.
Yeah, and it does look like Hio wants to go for a gank here in this bot lane. He has been spotted out now because he is in the lane. Flashes out, but there is just the defense from drops and books. And now they're chasing onto the bot lane of IAC and Hio. Kindred coming in. Suzuya forces a flash out of Oro. That will be no kill so far, but a pretty good counter gank from Suzuya.
That's going to be tricky there for Oro. I mean, losing out on the flash as a Kog'Maw.
Yeah.
Gonna leave him all the more vulnerable. You don't really have that many escape tools when you're running this particular marksman. But of course, with that immobility, easily makes up for being that glass cannon in a way towards the later parts of this game.
Exactly, and Oro now really has to be careful because at any time, Suzuya can come down here and go for him, especially since they really don't have any way to defend him if MCL goes really hard for him.
And you know what's interesting is that even with these ganks coming in from Hio, Suzuya pretty much easily going for the responses. I mean, if you look at positioning of these junglers so far as how they've been going about the map when clearing camps, they almost mirror movement in a way, which is why anytime Hio tries to go for a gank, Suzuya's just within the vicinity to respond a few seconds later.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the skills you need as a jungler. You need to be able to predict where the other jungler is going to be, but hold on in the top lane. Suhi is going to be going on to Sway. Sway has to flash out, but will this be that will be a solo kill for Suhi.
Man, that was pretty darn good. Able to get Skarl in the nick of time, sped his way through, connecting that trap, and just did its work right there. And that's what I've been talking about as far as this Kled versus Maokai matchup. Definitely won't have as much trouble prowling through that tankiness within the first initial stages until such time Suede actually does build up on itemization.
Yes, especially since Suede now has a Bramble Vest. That'll really stop Suhi from really doing that much damage to him now. But still, that solo kill, I really didn't expect Suhi to just go hard for the Maokai.
Meanwhile, looking at how iAcademy could potentially get back into this, I think as long as Oro and Sinigang are kind of left alone here, I mean left alone in the sense that they don't concur any deaths, I think that's something that they can work with, try to make him the focal point later on as this game goes along, but that's still quite a bit of way to go because every single person that isn't bot lane on iAcademy has suffered a death each, so definitely not the best start if you're going to compare them to their counterparts, which are definitely, without a doubt, in a better position.
That's true. Oro, he does just need time to come online because as a Kog'Maw, you just need 3 items and then you're ready to teamfight, you're ready to just shred through the enemy health bars. But that's not going to happen, as you said, for a long while yet. And IAC, their other lanes have to play kind of cautiously in order to not let MCL snowball before Oro can get there.
Meanwhile, we're seeing a few pings here coming in from mid lane. Spotting, trying to figure out... Okay, Stellar is going back though. So, I think that's the interesting thing though. I mean, whenever Stellar tries to go for a response or tries to be proactive on the map himself, could potentially prove to be pretty good as what sets he can make.
Yeah, but Stellar, I do have to commend him. Before he back, he was up on CS onto Import. Import did die once, but once again in the top lane, Suede is going to be engaged on by Suhi. Suzuya is here, but the guy flashes in. Maokai uses his ultimate, but he's not fast enough. He is slowed. He will be taken back by Suhi for that another kill.
Oh man, this is going absolutely insane for MCL, and I think the thing that's interesting for me is that we're still looking at them just in the lane phase wherein you don't really see the full creativity of the composition that they have. So what more once they actually start pulling the trigger themselves in fights?
Yeah, especially since it looks like Stellar wants to go on to Hio here. Hio has to use his ultimate, but it's not going to look like it's going to be enough as they're frozen in time, but here we are resuming it. Hio will go down. Suzuya now onto the break.
Actually, what surprises me all the more is that how Stellar is even able to keep up in CS versus Import in this mid lane. I mean, like I mentioned, there's not really that many tools you could use as a Rakan to actually trade damage, But what you do kind of have though is safety in a way.
Yeah.
So definitely pretty good as far as MCL is concerned. Like I mentioned, as long as they could last out this early game, then that's definitely a checkup to once we see the beauty of this composition and work in team fights. But the fact that they're actually up 5-0 is a massive bonus for them.
Yes, especially since MCL, their comp is kind of weighted towards those mid-game skirmishes that they want to see, and that's just going to be like the story of this game because that's what they're going for. They're just going for every skirmish that they can take. You see, Stellar burned both of his summoners to secure the kill onto Hio there.
Yeah, that might be a tad bit more tricky for him as far as escape tools if ever Hio does try to go for something in the lane. But then again, he does have that dash knockup to potentially get out of potential, like, just
Exactly.
like that. As I was saying.
However, in the bot lane, the gang coming in from Suzuya, drops will get onto Sinigang, but Sinigang has to flash out. Klit ulting in. This will be a Nami wave, but Sinigang will be the first one to go down to Suzuya, and Suhi flashing in for more. Gets the pull onto Oro. This dog has nowhere to run, but actually drops going to be taken down by the tower. Suhi now untargetable. Suzuya dealing a lot of damage onto Hio. Takes another kill. Rampage now 4-0-2 on this Kindred.
Oh
Looks
my
like
goodness.
Import and Stellar here though. They're responding to this gank. Ooh, Suzuya fails that hop. But that was a really good gank.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, even if they did lose out on drops there, I mean, getting 2 members of iAcademy, not to mention a turret, I'd say that's a pretty good trade-off I'd take anytime, any day.
I'd say worth, yeah. And you just saw Sinigang there. He had nowhere to run, just getting dove under tower by 4 people. It's not
fair.
not where you wanna be.
Not at all. And look at Suzuya right now, 4-0-2 on this Kindred. This is just gonna be very tricky for iAcademy to deal with, and it doesn't even matter if they have the tools to try to keep MCL at bay. At the end of the day, they could just shred through all of that, reach up Oro and Sinigang in time, and probably not even feel as much.
Yeah. Oh man, it's going to be really tough for iAcademy if they can't respond to these ganks properly. But they have swapped out their lanes. Sinigang and Oro are now going to the top lane to mirror books and drops. That's very interesting because usually the losing lane will stay at the bottom, right?
Right.
But I like this tactic from IAC. They're matching the lanes now.
I don't think they really have a choice at this point but to mirror it, because if they're gonna leave Bucks and drops unchecked, not to mention against if they were to allow themselves to contend with Yuhi, for example, I don't think they'd have the best time either, just because Yuhi could easily dive in, but it's like the fight.
Hang on. Suzuya is here onto Hio. Drops will use his ultimate there, and this is a 3v4, but Import is going in with his Swain ultimate. No kills as of yet. Stellar is backing off. Drops and him are running for their lives under the turret. Import using his flash and ultimate there to scare off MCL. Ooh. That's what I was talking about earlier, the speed of MCL. They can just disengage so fast.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. Even if iAcademy could have potentially gotten a pickoff right there, it's almost like they need their crowd control to catch up to MCL before MCL can just speed away. You almost have to be very precise with the timing and how you set fights to initiate onto MCL, because otherwise they're just going to continue to flee every attempt that iAcademy goes for.
Yeah, and Suzuya here looks like he's caught out a little bit in this spot. Import is there. He looks like he's going to be responding very soon. But man, that was it just looks like it's this game is heavily in the favor for MCL. And I think that's the beauty of their comp. Is that you kind of don't expect them to go so hard, but they just go in.
I mean, it's either they engage speed all the way, or if they need to withdraw, then just speed out of there. It's just very straightforward, their composition, and it just makes it all the more interesting that they complemented that with a Rakan as well as a Braum. Not normally something you'd see anywhere, for that matter. Not even in ranked.
Maybe in solo queue. I've seen it a couple times. I've personally seen Crazy Apple, our commissioner, doing it. That Rakan made a couple times.
Did it win? Okay, let's not go there.
Let's not go there. I know it's won a couple times, but it does look like MCL is on track for maybe getting this mid Rakan win.
Yeah, so far so good. And this is what I've been talking about earlier. we go back to the intent of the Rakan baiting and Asaya ban. I mean, the fact that as soon as I saw that Sivir, that was just pretty darn good because, again, like it was almost like they knew that they wanted that Sivir particularly, and by revealing the Rakan, it made iAcademy think twice, and it just really rounds up the composition so well, having those two speedsters on their side.
Exactly. And it's going to make it really hard for iAcademy to get that 5v5 team fight they really want, because that's where Kog'Maw shines, right? That's where Kog'Maw can actually do his damage if he stays in the back. But if they're not allowed to get that 5v5, but here we go, Suzuya will pop his ultimate. Kindred will go down very soon as that ultimate goes down. And really, MCL has no way to help that. Looks like Griff Herald is the next target here. No, they're just going to actually look for the dive onto Books, or actually taking a lot of Books' HP, about 80%.
Yeah, he's gonna have to take the long way out of there. Gonna make a retreat under second turret. Good call. As you guys can see, he was actually trying to scout out if he wasn't gonna go all the way to the safety before retreat. So far, so good. But then again, iAcademy, gotta give kudos to them. Yeah, able to catch off that Kindred. Not to mention, it looks like they'll be getting a turret off of this towards the top side. Nobody in MCL really within near vicinity to even defend.
Yeah, that was really good play by MCL, just surprising Suzuya. He didn't expect 4 members of IAC to actually be there, and IAC getting a little bit of momentum in this game, getting that top there, that's going to be good for them. And actually, I think, yeah, Suede steals out the red buff from Suhi.
Yep, right in the nick of time. But then again, just these small victories for iAcademy. Still need to see a tad bit more of a climb. Not that hope is not as lost. If you're going to look at the goal difference, definitely very, very much manageable for iAcademy. Still a lot of avenue for them to make that comeback, especially if they can continue to find members of MCL that are otherwise isolated without that speed boost, like we saw Suzuya. I mean, without anybody to supplement and escape for him, it was just pretty much good as done.
Yeah. I do like Stellar's build here though. A Hextech Gunblade first, not Hextech Gunblade. The Hextech Proto Belt first item. That is just an item that supplements, you know, his abilities so well.
Right. And I mean, given that supplement, it just makes me all the more interested in what potential sets we'll be seeing in these full 5v5s later. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of creativity that they could go for as far as who can initiate. I mean, they have the speedsters, and then as far as needing to land crowd control to make sure that these initiates are all the more important, you could definitely trust Stellar and Drops to do just that. And
Exactly.
that's the interesting thing. Like, even though they don't really have a super solid crowd control, I mean, they easily make up for it because of the speed that they have with this comp.
Exactly, and IAC, they don't want the kind of 5v5 that MCL has. They don't want to get engaged on. They want to kite back and let Oro get a good position before really committing to a 5v5. But Suzuki here will just be getting the Infernal Break for free.
Yep. Free Infernal right there for MCL. Gonna give them a further boost in damage, which I definitely feel that they could benefit for, especially having double support right now. So, I mean, having that extra damage to make up for that deficiency, definitely a much welcome thing for Malayan Colleges of Laguna.
Exactly. And I do like the way that that Stellar is playing his lane, although it looks like he may be the subject of a gank at this moment. He does have his dash move to just get out of there, but it looks like he's just going to be walking into third range.
Yep, iAcademy recognizing that Stellar has the tools to just make it out, even if they try to force an initiate onto him. So that's just a discipline that they have to go for. Not to mention the frustration, by the way.
Yeah, if you're IAC, you really want to make picks, get those small advantages going, just like they did in the earlier gank where Suzuki was taken down, but they're just not finding it right now.
I think that's the interesting thing. I mean, as far as people that they could feasibly pick off when isolated, I think it's mostly Suzuya to an extent. Probably Stellar if they could get early in on crowd control, but once crowd control is expended, Stellar could just dash away, especially if there's Terran. Like, if there's a wall, he could just dash over to safety, then that's pretty much a good done deal.
Yeah, if they stack their crowd control in a really efficient way, then they can take down any member of MCL, but that's going to be a really hard challenge, especially since MCL has just so many ways to get out of any gank.
Definitely a tall order, but oh man, meanwhile, we have seen this game slow down a tad bit though.
Yeah, not as bloodthirsty as a first few minutes, but it looks like Suhi is going to be invading onto Sway. Mahio is there with the gank also, but Suzuya with the counter gank. Sway will be shredded down. The ultimate from Hio will dissuade him, but Shuhi tries to go in. Oh man, no kills so far, but you see the power that MCL has right now.
Yeah, good bait though, coming in from Suzuya right there. And as a result, expending 2 flashes from the side of I Academy dito sa ating top side. And 2 flashes plus a turret. That's definitely a good done deal.
Ah, that's worth for MCL. And Suzuya is really, really big right now. He's pretty fed, really farmed, and it's just terrifying to have a Kindred that deals so much damage in your lane, especially since the Kindred does percent health damage, and that just shreds through Swain.
Oh man, what a game. And again, like I mentioned, we're not even seeing the full 5v5s yet. But looks like Rift Herald going to be taken by MCL, in which case, no contest whatsoever. But then again, that's one thing that I'm struggling with I Academy right now. Vision isn't as bright as I would have hoped, which would have otherwise helped them gain a bit more control over the map.
Yeah, Suhi, he's really living up to Kled's lore here. Kled is a champion that just goes in, and Suhi, any opportunity he sees, he just dashes in, tries to get that bear trap.
Just go for it. And I guess pretty much justified because kung titignan nyo naman kung nasan siya ngayon, definitely in a better position. 202, not to mention itemization looking pretty darn good for him. Partida, di pa niya kompleto yung boots niya.
You're actually right. He rushed Black Cleaver, now going for that. Oh, there it is. There it is. He's gotten his Merc Threads, and he's going for the standard Glad build, Black Cleaver, Titanic Hydra, and that is a... He's just so far ahead of Suede right now.
Tenacity definitely beneficial to MCL at this point. I mean, whatever crowd control that they do have to catch, you know, they don't want to let it hold them down as much as possible. But great timing on this Rift Herald something, by the way. As soon as Suzuya spotted the retreats coming in from I Academy, no hesitation whatsoever, goes for that Rift Herald spawn, and that's going to be a turret expended. Can they get a second one?
Yeah, now all of MCL is in this mid lane right now. And I don't think IAC can actually fight this if MCL just forces it down. Especially since MCL will just get a 3-second turret and backs up.
Oh man, just like that, MCL really starting to build up on advantages here. But you know what surprises me, Jitan, is yung gold din na lang nakita ko, hindi siya as large as yung ini-expect ko. And I think it ultimately comes down to, if you're gonna look at least creep scores, that's something that I gotta give I Academy kudos for. That they at least kept that in check. That it's almost even out between sides. But then again, I think the reason why they were able to keep up as far as creep score is because ayun nga, nagkaroon nga tayo ng moment na medyo stale dito sa game na hindi na masyadong nag-proactive yung MCL rather. And that definitely gave a bit of room for I Academy to kind of build up, but still a bit far off.
Kled Ultimate coming in, going to be going on to Suede. Suhi is just going in, but the Nami Wave tries to extricate the members of MCL, but the MCL, they're just very split right now. Still gets the first kill onto Hio. Split of the forces of IAC. Gets that once in Shao, and now Suede is gonna go down for a double kill. Stellar with his mid-run.
That was without a doubt one of the weirdest initiates I've ever seen, but very, very effective. I say weird because I don't think it's just a very rare sight wherein you see 2 supports get a set in on the enemy team, and looks like MCL gonna reward themselves with the Baron in this case.
Yeah, MCL definitely gonna get this Baron for free. And the Kled from the side, I think IC was expecting Suhi to come in from the front.
Wait. Oh man, this game is just getting all the more interesting, and with that Baron secured for Alliantologist of Laguna. Take note of the gold difference though. Immediately, we're talking about a 5,000 difference. It's already nearing 10,000 just after that fight.
Yeah, MCL, that is the way they want to be playing these fights. They want to get those engages on, they want those speed ups, and they want to take care of the IAC members before they can get a chance to actually do anything about it.
Oh man, I live for these crazy creative games as a caster, and finally, MCL bringing it to the table and bringing it in a very effective way, not to mention.
Yes, very, very effective. IAC, they can't really find the fights that they want because this MCL is just playing their comp to perfection.
Oh man, I think, okay, so again, another Infernal going to MCL. Man, the stars are aligning for MCL right now, I gotta say. Go for a risky and orthodox composition, reap the rewards, and looks like Dragons, as far as what buffs that they're benefiting from, definitely all the more helpful to cover what potential setbacks their composition might have. Like I mentioned, damage, for example, and whew, just really coming down.
Yes, and Suzuki is just really fed as this Kindred. I think he's on 6 stacks right now, and that's gotta hurt even if you're building tanky, and you cannot let Suzuki get onto the backline or else it's over for Oro.
Again, this is a point in the game wherein it doesn't matter if technically iAcademy has a tad bit more healthier champions on their side, but without having the necessary items to withstand that damage from MCL, it's almost a non-factor in this case. And that's what kind of worries me. They won't be able to proficiently protect that Kog'Maw. Even though if you're going to look at Oro, in all fairness, he managed to keep his ground, not even suffering a single death himself. Bot lane did very fine, but the rest of iAcademy needs to get back online.
Yeah, and you see iAcademy, they're just conceding turrets because they know they can't fight MCL in a straight-up fight right now. They have to look for creative ways to actually get advantages, and MCL is just not giving them these things. They're forcing down inhibitor turrets now on all 3 lanes at the same time.
Whew. That's going to be an inhibitor turret taken. Looks like inhibitor will be taken down as well. iAcademy is crippled, limited to what reach that they have to try to defend their base. And okay, for this game.
To ult out, but that'll be 2 inhibs so far. Looks like the ult from the Sivir will be used there to just scare IAC, but they will catch out the Maokai. Swing goes down, but Import trying to fight back. Senegal uses the ultimate, blocked by the Braum shield, unbreakable, and IAC are just desperately trying to defend it. Now they have 3 inhibitors broken. MCL still have Baron buff. I think we're gonna see the final push here very, very soon.
Definitely. MCL rather taking the safer route, going back to build up on what final items that they can before they go for that picture perfect push into a finish onto iAcademy. Whether or not iAcademy can withstand that, that is definitely something that I'm interested in seeing, if even feasible.
It's gonna be tough to say the least, because they're gonna have double super minion waves flooding into their base very soon. And MCL, they're just at this point in the game where they're just too strong for iAcademy to deal with it in any way. If MCL groups up as 5, iAcademy have no way to really answer that.
Oh, not at all, G10. And looks like MCL, they're starting to converge here in this mid lane, ready to go for that finish. Let's see how iAcademy fares.
Yes, Baron buff now has run out, but I don't think that'll matter much as MCL, they're going for what looks like the final push. IAC just desperately trying to hold on to their base, desperately trying to keep this thing going. MCL though have strangled them so efficiently that it's really hard for IAC to even clear these minions from their Nexus turrets.
Oh man, here we go. Those waves are starting to come in.
Has been engaged on, but it will not matter as the Maokai ultimate comes in. Sway has to flash out though, and the first kill will go on to... Import actually has Sazonius out. Nobody dead yet. Kindred ultimate saving the lives of MCL. Everyone's up, but IAC has to retreat, and MCL are now onto the Nexus turrets. Zeller with a flash engage there. First kill onto the Kog'Maw. Xin Chao goes next, and that will be the game for MCL. IAC, that was a hard-fought battle, but MCL they were just so good at executing their composition.
Man, oh man, 2-12. What a game.
We gotta take a breather after that.
Take a breather. I mean, I'm still in the moment where I'm still trying to process that composition from MCL, but very well played. Ito G10 na.
Yeah.
I thought last week the Katarina was my favorite creative way to go about a composition. MCL, 1 week after trumping that Recon mid, good stuff.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure that these LVL teams, they gotta up that creativity to get the wins like these. They have to mind game their opponents, and that's why I love LVL, because it's just so creative what these teams are doing. They're bending the meta to their will.
And I think the tricky part here is that MCL definitely took a big risk that iAcademy, if MCL played that wrong, would have been a very easy game for them. But the fact that MCL was able to get a few legs up within the earlier parts of the game towards building up to that lead worked in their favor in the end, I gotta say. It was a risk, but then again, given where they're at right now, it's one of these moments wherein kailangan mo talagang, you kind of want to go against the grit here. And worked out.
Definitely. MCL picks up their second win, and that was actually a very beautifully executed composition. It looked like they had practiced it before. It looked very, very clean. They only gave up 2 kills in the entire game.
Looks like they definitely made good use of the break that they had prior to heading into this week. And I gotta give it to MCL though. I mean, it's a very tricky scenario to be in when you're in the LVL, whether just how far you want to push the envelope when it comes to these creative compositions, but definitely worked in the end. Let's talk about iAcademy for a bit though.
Yeah.
I think the tricky part right there is just because of how Suhi was maneuvering on that Kled earlier on, which made it, like I mentioned, it's very tricky that even if the Kog'Maw is on point with where he's at in the game, if you don't really have that solid front line to grant that Kog'Maw the protection to be that key carry to protect, then pretty much moot there.
Yeah, but that will be game number 5. Tune in next for our next game number 6 between Adamson University and USC Teletigers. My name has been G10 coming at you, and with me is Arctic, and we'll see you for the next game.
Still a bit far off.
Kled Ultimate coming in, going to be going on to Suede. Suhi is just going in, but the Nami Wave tries to extricate the members of MCL, but the MCL, they're just very split right now. Stella gets the first kill onto Hio. Split off the forces of IAC. Gets that one-sling shout, and now Suede is gonna go down for a double kill.
Waves are starting to come in.
Has been engaged on, but it will not matter as the Maokai Ultimate comes in. Suede has to flash out though, and the first kill will go on to... Oh, Import actually has his own out. Nobody there yet. Kindred Ultimate saving the lives of MCL. Everyone's up, but IAC has to retreat. And MCL are now onto the Nexus turrets. Stellar with a flash engage there. First kill onto the Kog'Maw. Xin Chao goes next, and that will be the game for MCL. IAC, that was a hard-fought battle, but MCL they were just